Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's Reading List. This is the start of a new series on my channel. I don't know how long it's going to last, but this Stephen King novice, I think I read like 4 or 5 novels, I will go through them in a bit, is going to try to read Stephen King fairly regularly because he's my dad's favorite author, and we're actually going to his hometown in Maine in June. So I wanted to get some more Stephen King under my belt. And I started with probably the wildest choice. So let's just, let's get into it. The Stephen King books that I have read, I'm gonna really try to remember them all. Okay, I've read, and they're not going to be in order. They're not going to be in order because I don't know if I can do that. I read Carrie, Misery, Fairy Tale, The Body, but that's not like a novel. Oh, I swear I've read more. I think I'm missing one. I don't remember what it is. I might jump back and be like, I remembered, but so far that's 4. I think I have one more, but I'm not positive. Oh, Salem's Lot. Yeah. I think that might be it. I don't know. I will put up an addendum somewhere if I'm wrong. But, so those are the Stephen King books that I've read. And as I mentioned, in June, which is in about 4 months, I'm going to Maine with my dad and my friend Stephanie, and the basis of it is we're going to Bangor, Bangor. I think it's Bangor. I don't know. But we're staying there, just where Stephen King lived for a very long time. I'm fairly certain he doesn't live there anymore. I'm pretty sure he used to snowbird and stay in Maine, and then like in the winters go to Florida. I think he just stays in Florida now, which makes sense because he's up there a little bit. But I wanted to get more Stephen King books under my belt just because, you know, we're going to see all these sites that are referenced in his books, and I think I should be able to like appreciate them at least somewhat. However, the issue is that so we're in Bangor, right? And I believe that is what inspired Derry, which is the town in It. And the thing about me, I refuse to read It. I have a clown phobia because of the miniseries, and I just can't. I just can't do it. My friend Stephanie is reading it, which I really appreciate, so that I don't have to. I will read other books, but I just can't read it. So I have a couple books, but the one that I'm starting with for this vlog, which to me seems like a wild choice, but I really wanted to read it, is On Writing. It's writing memoir. But you know what? Okay, I have read 55 pages of it. 1, I'm really enjoying it. And 2, it references Maine quite a bit, which makes sense. So I think it makes total sense to read for this series. If it happens to inspire me with my own writing, yay. So the 55 pages that I read were the 3 forewords that he wrote, which I thought was really funny. And then I'm currently in the like CV portion. And so they're like snapshots of his, so far, like early experiences with writing. So I think where I am right now, he's only 16, 17. So I'm finding it really, really interesting just because, 1, I'm learning a lot about him. Like, as I mentioned, Stephen King is my dad's favorite author. I grew up around Stephen King, but he's not my favorite author, obviously. I can appreciate his talent and his quantity, but oh, and I tried to read the first book in the Dark Tower series. And I think that's kind of what put me off of Stephen King a little bit, just because it really wasn't for me. But I've also been told, I think with the Dark Tower series, you kind of have to push through till the second book, I think. I think I may have heard that before. Stephen King for me has always been a little hit or miss. Like, I really love The Body. I loved Fairy Tale. I liked Carrie. Misery freaked me out, but it's supposed to, so that's good. I hated Salem's Lot. Yeah, not for me. So I'm kind of nervous, but I have On Writing, obviously. I also have Insomnia. I got The Body again. I got like a physical just of The Body instead of different seasons. I feel like I got something else. Wow, my memory is really sucking when it comes to Stephen King. And then I know that when we're in Maine, we're going to listen to The Dead Zone, I believe. I feel like I have another Stephen King book on my, hold on. Oh, and then the other Stephen King book I have is 11/22/63, which, if you know Stephen King, Insomnia and 11/22/63 are very, very long. So, that's where I'm at. I know I didn't talk about On Writing that much, but as I said, I only read like 55 pages, which actually isn't that much. So, I am enjoying it. I'm finding it really interesting. I'm also looking ahead at the books that I have to read. So I'm going to try to read this, not like super quick. I want to absorb it, make sure I'm, getting everything I can out of it, but I'm not going to dilly-dally with it. So there's that. I will check in later after I have read some more. Okay, so yesterday I had some time. I read about 80 pages of On Writing. I'm about halfway through, and I'm really enjoying it. I was, I guess, a little concerned just because like nonfiction usually takes me a lot longer to read than fiction, but it's Stephen King writing it, and so it feels very much like a story it's being told to me, even though it's about his life and his experience with writing and all this sort of stuff. And I'm in the section now that is like actual writing tips, and even that like is going pretty quickly. So I'm feeling good about it. Some of the things, especially because I just read like his tip on like not really using a lot of adverbs, especially with like dialogue attribution, I'm guilty of that. And so like part of me is trying to reconcile of like, I do that automatically and it may not be helpful in my writing. And so I'm like trying to reconcile that. But I still think obviously Stephen King has written a ton. He's been writing for like 50 years, longer, at 70 at this point, because he started writing when he was a kid. And so I'm like, you know what, maybe he knows more about writing than I do. That's a possibility. So I am enjoying it though. It is making me, I think, excited to pick up the fiction books that I have. I can't explain why, but I think it is. And it's also obviously having a positive impact on my own writing because, like I said, it's making me more aware of the things that I do. Like, I know I use adverbs a lot, but it's making me want to examine, my current writing projects and sort of be like, okay, is that necessary? Like, sort of striking a balance between like some adverbs, not all the adverbs. So yeah, that's the part that's sticking in my brain. But I did enjoy his candidness when talking about his alcoholism and his drug use, and the thought process of being an addict. I really enjoyed that. Enjoy is a weird word. Like, appreciated. I appreciated that. So, and how it impacted his writing. Like I haven't read Cujo yet, but I know enough about it, and I have watched Gavin Reads All. He's doing a series on where he reads all Stephen King books in publication order. And so I've heard him talk about Cujo, even after knowing like the gist of it. And while it's probably not a book that I would read just because of animal death, I do think it's very sad that he doesn't remember writing it. And I think even in On Writing, he says that he's sad he doesn't remember writing it. And so it was just like, I don't know, that really made me think. So like I said, I appreciated how open he was about that. I don't know if I will be reading more of On Writing today, but I am hoping at this rate to have it done by the end of the week. I guess we'll see. I do have other reading I'm trying to do at the same time. I'm trying to balance everything, but I'm really enjoying this so far. So I'm really glad, even though it seemed like a weird choice, that I picked this book to start the series, just because I'm sure there are other books that I will read by Stephen King I probably won't like as much, but we'll see. We'll deal with that when we get there. Okay, so I am over halfway through On Writing. I have about, I think, a little bit more than 100 pages left, because I was going to read more yesterday, and I think I have like 18 chapters. They're like, if you've read On Writing, like, you know that like they're like 7 sections, and most of those sections are broken down into like smaller like chunks. I wouldn't say chapters necessarily, but they're chunks. So I guess I have 18 chunks left, including the anyway. However, I've decided to break the book up. I have 18 more of those. So I think on Wednesday or Thursday, one of those days, I read another, I want to say like 80 pages, 60 or 80 pages. I don't quite remember. I'm in the section On Writing now, and I'm still finding it very useful. I'm finding it way more engaging than I thought I would. And I'm positive it's because of Stephen King's writing style, which makes me feel good, because I want to like Stephen King. Like I said, like, he's my dad's favorite author. And I think for me, the writing style is not the issue here. Like, clearly I like his writing style. And I've given one of his books a 5-star. I read Fairy Tale a couple years ago. Really loved it. And so it's not his writing style. I think just sometimes for me, I think it's the characters. Like, sometimes his characters are just very, like, just very unlikable. And, like, obviously some of them are supposed to be. But, like, I just remember the main character of Salem's Lot, I could not stand. And I definitely couldn't stand the female love interest in Salem's Lot either. And obviously, that book was written a very long time ago. But it's still just one of those things of, like, sometimes the characters just are not it. And I kind of need a character that I root for. That's kind of thing. I know my dad doesn't need that. He doesn't need a likable or relatable character. I do. So, all that to say, reading On Writing is helping me sort of pinpoint what I do and don't like about Stephen King. Which is great, because then I can hopefully pick more books that I do like. So we'll see how this realization that it's the characters sort of impacts my future reading with Insomnia, 11/22/63, The Dead Zone, and I will probably reread The Body, but like I said, I've read it before. I know I already like it. So there's that. Yeah, I can't really remember anything else that I've read recently in the book, because I haven't read it for a couple days. I'm hoping I can read more tomorrow, but I really doubt it. because this week is just very busy between work and school, so I'm not having a lot of time. So, there's that. But I am hopeful. I'm more than hopeful. I'm positive I will finish it before the end of the month. Which, I have another, 6 days? So, I think I'll be good. Hi everyone. I have finally finished On Writing. I say finally as though, like, I didn't enjoy the book. I did. It just took longer than I thought it was going to. But that's not because of the book. That's because of life. I ended up being, like, incredibly busy at work, as well as having, like, an assignment due. And so the combination of those two was, like, really stressing me out. So I didn't read a ton for a couple of days. But I was able to finish On Writing yesterday. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super helpful. It was so, I don't know, it was sort of like reassuring that I do like Stephen King's writing. And I may have mentioned this before. Like, I think I realized that, like, it's the characters that kind of put me off. And I realized that because in the On Writing book, after the On Writing section, there's a section on Stephen King's, I don't want to say accident, because he had no he had no part in this. He got hit by a car in 1999, I believe, and so he could have died. And so it's detailing, that, as well as, how he was in the hospital, and then his recovery, and how that impacted his writing. So I really appreciated that section because it was very honest. And the reason I bring it up when I'm talking about characters is because, like, there's a section where Stephen King is describing the person who hit him, because he was out for a walk and he got hit by a minivan. He was describing the person who hit him, and at one point he's like, this is one of my characters. Like, this is a character I would have written. And I'm like, yeah, and I hate that guy. Like, not only did he, like, hit a pedestrian, but he was just so, I don't know, so, like, casual about it. Like, you could have killed someone and you're talking about, like, oh, I was just on the store to get Mars bars or whatever. I'm like, what? And so, like, yes, it is a character that Stephen King could have written, and it's those characters that drive me crazy. So I don't know how that sort of, like, impacts my Stephen King reading, besides just making me more aware of, like, these characters, as annoying as I find them and unbelievable as I find them. Those people do exist. So, I don't know, maybe it'll make me give him more grace. But, like I said, I really enjoyed it. On Writing was, the section was super helpful. I got a lot of very valuable tips out of it that I'm going to try to apply to my own writing, because I am, like most people who read a lot, am wanting to write a book. So I think I will definitely apply a lot of what he recommended. I also really enjoyed the sections. Well, one, I enjoyed his book recommendations. And the fact that I have an edition that came out, I think, in 2024. So it's been updated since the original came out in 2000. So the original book has, like, 80 book recommendations that Stephen King, like, really enjoyed or inspired him. But then there's another one that was in, like, the 2010 edition or something. And then there's another one. Maybe this book came out in 2020, because it was essentially, like, the first one was the books that he had read from, let's say, 96 to, 2000. And then the second one was 2000, 2009, and then the third one was 2010 to 2019. So whenever my edition came out, I appreciated that it was updated. And it was also updated with conversations, or there was an article by Owen King and then a conversation between Stephen King and Joe Hill, both of whom are his sons. And then there's also a like final section on joy. So I just appreciate that it's been updated. That I thought that was really cool. So I don't know, that just made me happy. I'm like, oh, because there's some information that like maybe isn't necessarily relevant anymore, mainly about like how to find an agent or how to contact an agent. I don't think that information is really applicable anymore, just because we're so much more digital now. It was still really interesting to read about, and I think there's still some useful information in there, but like the specifics of like, you find an agent by looking in these periodicals, I don't think that applies anymore. So I appreciated that stayed the same, but like there was stuff added at the end to like update it a bit. I just thought that was interesting. So I gave it 5 stars. I've been gushing about it the entire time. If anyone cares what I think about Stephen King's nonfiction book, I gave it 5 stars. So, as I said at the beginning of this video, I think that choosing On Writing was an interesting choice for a new series, but I enjoyed it. I found it very inspiring, not just as someone who wants to write, but I found it inspiring for this series and for someone who wants to like Stephen King. Because, as I said, it made me realize the things that I like about him, and I will carry that forward in the next book that I read by him. Now, I will say, I already know what the next book I'm going to read by Stephen King is, and I've already read it before. A couple months ago, I was in the bookstore. I knew I was going to start a series like this in preparation to going to Maine, and I saw a standalone version of The Body. Now, The Body is probably one of my favorite Stephen King works. Like, I know that's not saying a lot, but I also really love the movie Stand By Me. It's a comfort movie, so when I saw The Body by itself, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and get that because I would like to reread it. So I will be rereading it next. I already know I like it, but I will be interested to see how I feel about it because I haven't read it since I was a teenager. So I'll be interested to see what, 15 years of difference makes and how I feel about The Body. I'm sure I'll still love it. But that will be the next video, so keep an eye out. If you have any thoughts about On Writing, if you also enjoyed it, or if you have any Stephen King recommendations, go ahead and leave them. I make no promises of what I will read and or like, but I do appreciate the recommendations. Otherwise, like the video, subscribe, click the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!